Good evening. This meeting is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting school corporation business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There will be time for public participation as indicated by the agenda. The meeting site is fully accessible. Any person requiring further accommodation should contact the superintendent at the school corporation central office. Call to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I know we have some students here that are being honored, so those of you who would like to lead the pledge, please come forward now. And I'd ask that everyone else please stand. We'll observe a moment of silence and then the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. We have everyone except Mr. Hendricks present this evening, so we do have a quorum. Mission statement, Mrs. Hutchison.
Lebanon Community School Corporation will cultivate and reach every student by influencing and enriching their lives through the power of education, and will do so in a positive and safe learning environment.
Thank you. Item 2 is a traditional thing we do each December. Dr. Milliman, would you like to introduce our...
I would be honored. It is a December meeting, and as tradition here at our school board meetings, to help get us in the holiday spirit, our own madrigals come and spend some time with us and spend some holiday cheer with us. So, Ms. Chef, if you would take it away, we will turn the meeting over to you.
Very nice. Thank you, Madrigals. And that was my daughter, the last one, just to brag a little. Item 3, Mr. Dennis, additional appropriation for education fund.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith. As the board is aware, every year we have to ask for appropriation, which is the authority to spend money, and that request for calendar year 2022 would have been submitted to the Department of Local Government Finance in August of 2021. And so those challenges, of course, present themselves of projecting, really 18 months into the future as you're requesting those appropriations. And since August of 2021, the world has certainly changed, and inflation has struck. But some good change, of course, as Lebanon Community School Corporation has grown, and we've had to add positions, and that has, of course, come with more expenditures in the education fund. Luckily, the education fund appropriation for 2022 was very well appropriated, and this hearing needed to be advertised on December 3rd, 10 days in advance statutorily of this meeting on December the 13th. And at that time, November financials were not finalized yet, and honestly, the hearing was placed on the agenda tonight as a precautionary measure. And in fact, the action that I was going to ask of the board tonight was simply the permission to file for the additional appropriation should the need present itself, rather than a guaranteed this needs to happen. Unfortunately, there was some miscommunication with the local paper, and emails were buried, and that ad advertising this meeting did not make it into the paper. And so we will be unable to hold the hearing, and therefore we would be unable to pass the resolution giving me the permission to file for the additional appropriation. I'd remind the board that this was placed on the agenda as a precautionary measure. It would take an extraordinarily out of character December to overspend this year's education fund appropriation. But I never want to come to the board without solutions. Every year we also appropriate the rainy day fund for a rainy day and for unexpected expenditures. And so what I would make the board aware of tonight is, should we make it through December and we close end of year and realize that we do overspend the 2022 education fund appropriation, I would use those appropriated rainy day fund dollars to cover that overage. The plan was to come to the board in January, once we close out 2022, for a rainy day transfer from the operations fund, and at that time it would be my intent to reimburse the rainy day fund from 2022 surplus in the operating fund, and that may more than reimburse should we have to use that, but certainly would reimburse anything that we would utilize from the rainy day fund. So I apologize for this. This is on me, but we will be unable to hold the hearing due to the legal notice not making it into the paper.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation. Unfortunate that it didn't work out properly. Board, any other comments
No.
on that?
Good solution, though,
I
to
think so. We'll be
fall
fine.
back on.
Okay, thank you. Item 4, approval of minutes for the November 15th regular meeting. Like a motion to approve, please? Second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5, certify executive content. We also held an executive session on November 15th. Information about prospective employees, job performance, and a consideration of the appointment of a public official. Like a motion to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Questions or comments on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 6, superintendent announcements and celebrations.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith.
Yes.
Once again, thank the Madrigals for their outstanding performance. Always good for the spirit and soul at this time of the year. So thank them. And leads me to one of my celebrations, is many of the students that performed this evening performed an outstanding musical, Grease, recently, so I wanted to congratulate them on that. Also wanted to congratulate not only the students that are on stage. I think sometimes we may overlook the lighting, the sound, the makeup, the set design, and all of the behind-the-scenes things that are happening in order to make those productions happen. There are no unimportant roles in that production, and so to all the students and staff that made that possible, congratulations, bravo on that. I wanted to take a moment this evening and just thank a group of folks that I just kind of observed over the course of the last month, being in the schools and the classrooms. Our PTOs and booster groups and parent volunteers are outstanding and amazing in this district. I just wanted to take a moment and thank them. We'll be approving a donation, hopefully approving a donation later in this meeting from the Harney PTO of a significant contribution to Harney Elementary. I could list examples as long as this DIAS of what I've observed, but I think certainly around the holiday time you see staff appreciation events, you see just people going above and beyond, and I just wanted to thank all of our athletic boosters, music boosters, PTOs, everyone in the community that helps make us a special place in this district. And then finally this evening, I wanted to take a moment and thank the lady next to me. This is Mrs. Keith's last board meeting with us this evening, and so we wanted to take some time to recognize your leadership to the district. The first thing we're going to do is to surprise her with a brief video that we put together that with some help from your family, I might add, as well, and some folks in the district. And so, Mr. Martin, if you would.
I'm Mrs. Cannon.
And I'm Mrs. Lewis.
And we were the PAC co-chairs for the 2022 referendum.
We want to thank Mrs. Keith for her guidance and support of the referendum.
Without her, none of these plans would have come to the vote.
Her impact on the board will be seen through all the positive changes in LCSC.
Teachers, staff, and community members are in a better position for 21st century learning due to her dedication to the board. We have a lot to be grateful for, and she has some really big shoes to fill. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith.
Hey Liz, just wanted to say thanks for everything you've done for the school. Who would have ever thought that someday my baby sister would be my boss for a while? I guess that's over now. So thanks again. I know it's a ton of work, and you have certainly helped improve our school.
Thank you, Liz, for your love, time, support, and commitment to Perry Worth from the time of Vikings, Hawks, Tiger Cubs. Your commitment and love will be hard to replace. Thanks again for all that you've done for us.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks, Liz. Thank you.
Hi, Dee Hood. Liz, sorry, Mrs. Keith. You have been an incredible asset to Lebanon Community Schools. Your leadership and your guidance will be truly missed. Not only are you an amazing school board member, I call you an amazing friend as well. You will be missed.
Hey Liz, congratulations on a great run as school board member and president. You've been an awesome leader. Obviously, know you very well and very appreciative of all the things that you've done for LMS and for myself. Wish you the best, and thank you for all your service here for LCSC.
Liz, thank you so much. You've been absolutely wonderful. Hope you enjoy your new adventure.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith, for all that you've done for Lebanon schools and for being on our school board.
Hi, Ms. Keith. Thank you for all your hard work for our schools, and I hope you have a good retirement from this job and enjoy your next adventure.
Thank you so much, Ms. Keith, for your time on our school board and everything you've done for our schools.
You know, when you interview for a superintendent's position, it's as much the candidate that's interviewing the school district as it is the school board that's interviewing the candidate. And I certainly remember fondly, not always in every part of that interview because they were tough on me, but fondly through that process. And you feel a connection to the people. So whether it be Mr. Bertrand or Mr. Wyrie, Mr. Herr, Mrs. Hutchison, or Mrs. Keith at the time, you interview the board and you interview the community. And Liz is certainly one of the reasons why I chose Lebanon Schools. A little emotional about that because we've been through a lot in these few years together, but I can't think of anybody who has a passion for students and for doing the right thing. And the board members, I think, would all agree, look to Liz for guidance and support, and she's mentored them. I'm going to hijack the meeting this evening, and perhaps I'll get the board president in trouble, but we have a public comment section of the board meeting, but I'm looking at the folks who signed up to speak this evening on the clipboard, and I'm assuming by the list that they are coming to speak about this particular event. So I'm going to go out on a limb and do that. Would you like to read the names, or would you like me to? Okay, all right, since I've usurped the meeting. Oh, I don't want the gavel. I see Sean Keith in the audience. Is he with us this evening? Would you you signed up to speak, sir. You have a 3-minute time limit, and she's pretty ruthless.
Of course, if Wade doesn't start the clock, you're okay.
I don't even know what to do.
Name, state your name.
It's Sean Keith, 1305 South 400 East in Lebanon. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the school board, Dr. Milliman, everyone up here, just to affirm you guys. The last 2 years has just been a bear, and you guys have just shown just such composure, stayed passionate, did the right thing for the school community, the administrators, the teachers, everyone. It's a thankless job, I know, because of what Liz has done in the last 8 years. So I just wanted to publicly thank you all for what you've done. To my wife, so proud of you. Absolutely so proud. I remember 8 years ago, a little over, when she decided to run. And she, of course, consulted with me, and her father did this for years and years and years. So there was a great precedent there, but we talked about it, and just her passion, growing up in the community, going through the school system, knowing so many teachers and administrators, she knew that this was the right thing to do. So I wholeheartly signed up with her, because the spouse does sign up for this, because there's a lot of long hours and meetings and late night phone calls and all those things. So just well done. I'm just so proud of you. You've done a great job. You said 8 years ago, I want to serve 8 years. And you're going out on your own terms, which is this wonderful. You served the community well. There's so many people that have benefited. I didn't know about that video, so that was great to see. Others just acknowledging her. So thankful, happy to be your husband. You've fought the fight. You've run the race. You've kept the faith. Well done.
Michael Bertrand. Is there a Michael Bertrand in the audience?
Michael Bertrand, put my address 510 Tiger Way, phone number is 482-0380.
I noticed that.
I wanted, not about you, I had a couple policy questions I had to ask. The dress code, can you tell me on paragraph
Sir, you'll
6?
need to be seated, please.
It's not on 3 minutes. I got 3 minutes, so too bad. And then the mask, I wonder what's going on with the mask deal. Are we wearing masks? Are we not? I mean, what's going on? No, I just want to say congratulations. You know, it's been 8 years, and you know, I'm an emotional person too. So, but thank you for helping out, because there was times you talked me down, and it wasn't anything that the board had done wrong or the superintendent, Dr. Taylor, anybody. It was just some things going on, and I could talk to Liz, and she would talk me down from it, and we could talk through it. And that's a very important thing. I mean, I talked to other school boards, and there's a lot of friction between some other school boards. And I really do think we did a lot of good. We did some stuff that some people didn't agree with. Even the board we didn't agree, but we can walk away knowing, okay, it's fine. So thank you for your service. Thank you for all you've done for the schools and for my family. And best of luck to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
Dr. Robert Taylor.
Good evening. My name is Bob Taylor. I live at 2110 Dale Court here in Lebanon. Dr. Milliman, Madam President, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I come to say thanks and appreciation, not only as a former employee, but as a member of the community, for the work you do, collectively. The work you do is not only significant, but impactful. And the work you do is difficult work, but it takes leadership. And for that, I want to thank Ms. Keith. Throughout your tenure, you provided leadership, stability, passion, dedication, and sacrifice. And that goes way above and beyond what was ever expected for you when you took the position on Lebanon Community School Corporation Board of Trustees. I can tell you the times you'll reflect and you'll wonder why you did it. And times you'll reflect and you know exactly why you did it. And maybe that's why I wanted to come this evening, is just to affirm to you, as you finish up your tenure, that the reasons you did it are very evident. This evening we had a group of young men and women, extremely talented, but they were 7, 8, and 9 years old when you took over on the board. And through your governance, through your leadership, through your cooperation with Dr. Millenham and previous administrations, you've allowed them the opportunity to perform this evening, to achieve what they achieved. And so I want to thank you for that. I also, though, want to thank your family. Sean, Keith, that they have, Sean and the rest of the kids have sacrificed with you. But I can tell you that their pride is evident every single step of the way, just as mine. So with my admiration and appreciation, I say thank you. I say thank you for all you've done, for the legacy you'll leave. 2 referendums passed in this community. No other community in the state, school community in the state, had that success. And that's evident. And you also, most people acquire, just want 2 minutes of fame in their life. I saw the YouTube video was 2 minutes and 47 seconds. So obviously you've achieved at a high level. Liz, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for enriching my life. Thank you for enriching the lives of our community. Thank you for everything you've done. Your dad would be very, very, very proud. Members of the board, thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you for your service. Thank you for commitment. We appreciate that. Our community is in better hands and in better shape because of what you do and how you do it. Because I can guarantee you, everyone's been on the board for at least a year now. Everything you do for students. You can never, ever, ever go wrong if that's the foundation of your decisions and your commitment and your sacrifice. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. All we have left is a parting gift, and unlike Dr. Taylor, I did not keep your tradition. It's not a gavel, it's not a plaque, it's not a clock. We have more of a practical gift, but
I
we
disagree.
give an opportunity.
I just want to say thank you for your leadership. The last 2 years of me being on this board have been extremely difficult, and without your leadership here to guide the entire board, I don't know where we would have been. So thank you so much for teaching us well. We have large shoes to fill, and hopefully we can. So
Thank you.
Yes, and I would like to thank you for being the only other female on the board when I joined. I appreciate that.
I would also like to say thank you. It's been a great 2 years, definitely a lot of learning, and look forward to making you proud of the next board.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here's your parting gifts. Thank you from all of us. One more time. And that with my best superintendent's announcements and celebrations
Wow.
2 days.
And I don't really know what I can say without just completely losing it. So, thank you for those that came, and I've heard from others, phone calls, messages the last few days. It means a lot to me. The video, way above and beyond. That was very thoughtful. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's hear about some students.
Yeah.
This is Scott. Let's
do
do
that.
some board recognitions, Tiger Pride Awards.
Thank you, and that's exciting for our students to witness too, all the hard work that you've put in to guide our school over the last years as they've came up through the ranks as well. So tonight we're excited to recognize our Tiger Pride champions, 5th, 8th, and 12th grade students who are demonstrating persistence, respectfulness, initiative, dependability, and efficiency in and outside of the classroom. Dr. Milliman and I had the privilege to visit each of these students in their buildings the last couple of weeks and to invite them here this evening, so we're excited to share these recognitions with you. We're going to start off with Josephine Morrison from Lebanon High School. Mr. O'Rourke and the staff shared that LHS is proud to recognize JoJo Morrison as an LCSC Tiger Pride champion. JoJo is an ideal representative of all the characteristics of pride in all that she does. She's intelligent, responsible, kind, brave, and takes a great deal of initiative. She is a determined advocate for others, and she is quick to help those around her in need of encouragement and support. She is a high-achieving student as evidenced by her top 20 class rank, and is also a dedicated servant leader as evidenced by the great work she does as the stage manager for many of the musical and theatrical productions. As an example, she recently did an exceptional job as the stage manager for the LHS musical Grease. JoJo is also highly respected by the members of the Lebanon Mayor's Office, where she is interning and currently working on an e-waste project for the city of Lebanon. It is a great pleasure to recommend JoJo as our Tiger Pride champion. She is very deserving of this honor and recognition. Congrats, JoJo. Also representing the high school this evening is Mr. Gabe Shores. LHS is proud to recognize Gabe as a Tiger Pride champion. Gabe is an exceptionally polite, respectful, and compassionate and intelligent young man. He is a 4.0 student who is taking an incredibly difficult academic schedule as a senior, consisting of 5 AP courses, a dual credit English course through Indiana University, and an advanced band class, while earning straight A's in all his classes. He is also highly respected by the teachers at LHS for always being considerate and caring for others. Gabe values and respects his peers and staff members in all that he does, whether it's in the classroom whether it is in the classroom or as a member of the LHS band or through the ways he represents our school and the community. You can always count on Gabe for being a positive example and influence. Congratulations, Gabe. The Bulldog team at Lebanon Middle School is proud to recognize Maya Nelson. The teachers shared that Maya was unanimously chosen by the Bulldog team as Tiger Pride champion. She is always exhibiting pride inside and outside of the classroom. Maya is the first to take initiative in offering to assist her peers and teachers whenever they need a hand. She exhibits a positive attitude while expecting the most out of herself and peers. Excellence is not only in herself, but those she works with. Maya has an amazing work ethic, asks questions, and continues to better herself in everything she is a part of at school. Maya thrives when she is challenged and strives to reach her full potential while being a leader not only in the classroom, but on the volleyball and basketball court, member of FFA and PBIS. Maya is very motivated to excel and reach success. Congratulations, Maya. Also representing Lebanon Middle School and nominated by the Team Swag is Kinley Young. Team Swag is honored to announce Kinley Young as our Pride champion. Kinley is an amazing young lady who teachers can count on. She demonstrates pride in many ways, including, but not limited to, taking initiative while helping with PBIS. She also shows dependability and efficiency as she is very involved in volleyball, all the while maintaining good grades. Kinley is a student who has always taken initiative to lead others and herself. She is currently an LMS FFA officer and is always one of the first to take the lead. She gives a warm smile to others and makes everyone feel included. Kinley is a motivated and positive young lady. She is eager to learn and is willing to try any activity. She asks questions when she needs to and always tries her best. Congratulations, Kinley. Keep up the great work. Now on to the fifth graders representing each of our buildings. We'll begin with Gabby West from Central, nominated by Mrs. Larman. Mrs. Larman shared that Gabby is a model Pride student. Consistently, you will find that Gabby works with persistence to complete her work to her best ability. She doesn't give up on tough math problems and will search through the text to find evidence to back written answers in reading. She shows respect to her fellow classmates and staff members at school. During group projects, Gabby listens to others' ideas and synergizes with her team to use the best of all the ideas on the table. Most importantly, we see Gabby consistently act as a leader at Central Elementary. When helping in the office, eating lunch with her friends, helping her first grade buddy, or learning in the classroom, Gabby leads by example. Her gentle leadership shows a maturity beyond her years. It is our pleasure to honor her with the Pride Championship Award. Congratulations, Gabby. From Harney, we have Natalie Harden. Natalie has been selected as the Harney Tiger Pride champion based on her actions in and out of the classroom. She's a very kind student who is always setting the best example for others. Natalie shows respect for her classmates by staying on topic in her work and being efficient in the time that it takes to do her tasks. As a teacher, Mr. Finneman shared that he can depend on Natalie to always know what she needs to do when she walks into the classroom, whether it is in the morning, after specials, or after lunch. She is an outstanding young role model for others and takes an enormous amount of pride in her work and her character. Way to go, Natalie. Your Harney family's proud of you. From Hattie B. Stokes, nominated by Mrs. Hardy, we have Emily Velasco Nieves. Emily is the kind of student that others want to emulate. She sets an example in the type of friend she is to others by being kind and helpful to everyone. Each morning, Emily comes in with a smile and greets the teacher and other students. She is hardworking and meticulous in her schoolwork. When working with a teammate or partner who is struggling with an activity, she shows grace and is always ready to help. Outside of the classroom, her leadership shines through her role as a student ambassador. She will be a leader in academics as well as character. Emily is going to go on to do amazing things in the future, not only academically, but also as a person. Hattie B. Stokes is proud to celebrate Emily as our Tiger Pride champion. And last but not least, we have Delilah Ramsey from Perry Worth. Delilah has been nominated by Mrs. Vanansky, and she shared that Delilah is a perfect representation for pride at Perry Worth. She is very selfless and is always thinking of others first. She includes all of her peers and is a leader to make sure everyone feels welcome and loved in the class. She's always working hard on all of her work. She's able to bounce back from getting an answer wrong and sees it as a learning experience and will not let it stop her from trying again. Delilah is always willing to help others out with something they do not understand or if they need help completing a task. She comes into school every day smiling and ready to learn. She sees each day as a new opportunity to learn something new and is always asking questions that gets everyone thinking, even her teacher. Whoa. Her work ethic is unmatched and she's always giving 110% in everything she does. Keep up the hard work, Delilah. Congratulations.
Congratulations to all of you. Now, we will usually take a little break if people want to leave, but I will tell you the next item on the agenda is an update on construction projects. So if you want information on that, it may be something you're interested in seeing. If not, we'll pause for just a minute for you to quietly leave. Thanks again for coming. Okay, we will go ahead and move along to item 8. If you are leaving, please do so quietly, and we will go on with our informational items, school construction and renovation update.
Sure. I will get started. Jim Thompson, Chris Kingery are here this evening from Gibraltar, really mostly to answer any questions you might have that have come up between the last time. We don't have newer, prettier pictures quite ready. We're going to bring some more of those to you in the January meeting. I will say that we did complete what's known as the in our school building processes, the 35% meeting recently, which means that we've gotten to a 35% point in some of the details of drawings, which certainly is a milestone when you're working with your construction manager and making those cost estimates and putting a little bit more specific numbers to get us closer to that bid day. But with that, I'll turn it over to these gentlemen, and we do have one more, I think, honor for Mrs. Keith that might be embedded in this presentation this evening as well. So,
might be. So first of all, relative to your design and vision for your elementary schools, moving along quite nicely. And next year, it's amazing to say that. So next year, probably in February, we'll bring you an illustrative presentation so you can once again kind of visualize things on their way to becoming a reality. So we're really looking forward to that. Do you have any questions about our progress update before we move to part B of our presentation? No?
Questions?
Okay, Madam President, Ms. Keith. So
yes, Mr. Thompson.
Awesome to see the video.
It was very nice.
Love seeing you with the little children. I think your smile just speaks to your passion. So many kind words. Second generation school board member. That's amazing. Probably the only other testimony that Chris and I could bring would be this. So Chris, being a 25-year school leader, has been in a couple of districts. I have been serving public education all across the state of Indiana for over 30 years. Love all the communities I've been in. And I feel like both Chris and I can speak with confidence that absolutely a foundation to a legacy growing lighthouse school district is the school board. Each of you as school board members, your superintendent, Mr. Dennis, attorney, Mr. Franson, everyone involved. It's a team effort, but the school board has the job of sitting here and voting and contemplating, and you all do it so very well. You've been a president for a referendum. I know those are unique and challenging. And you handled that with quite professional grace. And again, having traveled all over the state, you have something precious here. A couple of people mentioned that it's unique, and I would concur with that, and so would Chris. So without further ado, to acknowledge you, we thought no better way from our chairman, Dr. McCormick, Jennifer McCormick, myself, Chris, and the entire team. We're going to donate $1,000 to your education foundation in your honor. So Chris has a check that you may want the pleasure of giving to them or handing it over to Dr. Millman. In addition to that check, if the children are still here, if you did the math, it's a little over $10 a month. I'm not sure some months that was really a good payment. So there's a phrase I can't remember, but we also have a coffee card for you. So in retirement, you can enjoy a free cup of coffee. How about that? So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. That is a very unique acknowledgement. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm
Yeah, I'll take
honored.
that.
Thank you. That's very kind
You're
of
very
you.
welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Come back and see us.
Oh, I will. I will. I can't wait to see
Excited.
everything going
transformation
vertical.
is on the horizon. So.
Absolutely.
Happy holidays,
It's
everyone.
very kind of you. Thank you. You
Thank
too.
you. Thank you.
All right. Did you have anything to add? Dr.
I did
Millman,
not.
to that one?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
So then let's move on to B.
Hard to top that.
Elementary and secondary ESSER funds.
Yes, I'm going to grab the screen here for the school board and for those who are here with us this evening. You may recall this is a 6-month required process. The secondary education funds related to COVID-19, known as ESSER funds. The third round of the ESSER dollars requires each 6 months, June and December, to provide an update to the board and community regarding the reopening plan of our schools. You may recall back in 2020, 2021, there was a question about when we were in person or not in person and what those reopening conditions would look like. And so this was embedded into the requirements of the ESSER process in order for us to be able to satisfy those requirements. So that's what we're doing this evening. Very little changes, if any, to our June presentation. Again, this is just sharing with you that this process, you'll get to see some more of these presentations through September of 2023 as the final round of ESSER dollars goes to 2024, if I'm not mistaken, but this is the last encumbrance date. So you'll see more of these. We are still in phase 6. You remember the phases, which means we are in person, not remote at this time. We do have some students who we do serve in a virtual capacity, but it is not COVID related in those situations, at least not to my knowledge right now. It could be medically related, but not COVID related to my knowledge. We are not requiring masks. Obviously, they are still optional to anyone who would choose to do so, and we do continue to have those available should folks ask for those when they enter our buildings or facilities. Precautions, plexiglass are still installed in a few locations, but in many locations they have been removed. We did allow staff members to indicate whether they would feel comfortable with those left in place, and so in some of those situations they would be. I don't have a comprehensive list of where those might be, but they are throughout the district in areas where the employees indicated that. UV light sources are still in play, all of our additional air filtration, etc. Hand sanitizer is still available, all of those routine daily options for students. And the water bottle filling stations, I think, are likely here to stay. I think those are something that will be actually a lasting piece and will probably be built into some of our designs of our new buildings, as well as it's convenient for staff and students, quite frankly. We continue to speak with our local and state health department. However, I think the last 3 times I've spoken to Dr. Servies, they were at athletic contests rooting on our Tigers. They were not COVID-related conversations, but he's there if we need him and need that advice. Funding, although as I read the fine print of the ESSER requirements, is not necessarily part of the required part of this presentation. I think it's good to review it for the board and the community about how the funds are spent. So we have allocated dollars. The buckets that we presented are still in place. We are, we've referenced the referendum in multiple conversations this evening. And some of the positions that we've listed in the referendum fund, when the ESSER dollars ran out, for lack of a better term, could shift to the referendum. There may be some early shifting of some positions to the referendum as we may identify some other needs for the ESSER funds, because we would have the capacity within the new assessed valuation of the school district to be able to shift those funds to referendum for some of those positions. Examples of that might be, for example, the state of Indiana, probably no longer than 3 years ago, fully funded most of your instructional expenses for summer school. You got reimbursed at 100%. We were under 60% reimbursed from the state of Indiana for summer school. Summer school is directly related to some of the COVID learning loss over time and credit recovery for our students, etc. So we have incurred that cost in our education fund, for example, to be able to make summer school whole because the state isn't covering the entire expense. So perhaps we might shift dollars that would have been allocated to a position to summer school expense through the ESSER funds to make a little better use of that now that we have a better picture of what our assessed valuation is, tax rates are, how the referendum dollars will play out, and the dollars that will generate. So this may get updated, and we may actually update this before the June requirement, because if these percentages change, I'd like to be transparent about that to the community and the board and share with you, hey, we've decided to shift these buckets a bit. But as it stands today, this is still part of that plan about how those dollars would be spent. Cleaning and sanitation, of course, we did not continue with the additional first shift custodian. Those positions did not continue. However, we did continue in the middle school. We did add a position recently there, really just the day-to-day cleaning needs for the building, and so that was just a needed position that arose. So we did continue that position through the process. And then air quality, you may remember that we reimbursed ourselves for the air handling units that were installed at Harney Elementary, and so that's still part of our spending plan. They're still on top of the building, so they were installed, and so we want to make sure that we share that as well. And I believe that's my last slide this evening. We did make public comment available to our families and staff through Parent Square, our website. All of this information is on the website, can be accessed at any time from anyone. And again, as those changes do arise or may arise, we'll bring it back to the board so that you'll see that we may be shifting some of those funds. We're waiting, we're not too far away from the budget being certified, as are all the cities and towns and counties from the state of Indiana. And when that budget gets certified, we will have some information. Mr. Dennis will have some information to you and the community about what that means, what the estimated tax impacts are, funds that will be generated from the referendum. And at that time, if we're going to make any shifts, that would probably be the opportune time to do that. So stay tuned on that, and we'll make any changes there. That's it for my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions?
Nope.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
First reading of policy updates.
Yes, let me shift here, make sure I went off the screen appropriately. Mr. Martin will grab me if I don't. Yes, thank you, Mrs. Keith. In our first reading policies this evening, there are a couple policies that might have caught your eye. The dress and grooming policy, for example. Those are policies that Neola actually had added the administration. As you may recall, there's 3 personnel layers to the policy. One is for administration, one for certified staff, one for classified staff. So the dress and grooming policy hasn't changed. The language hasn't changed. We made it match our current policies, but Neola added it for administration. It was just a missing policy from that stable of policies. So that's what was there. And for what reason, I'm not sure, we didn't have the classified policy in ours. So we are adding it. It's not new to Neola, but it's new to us. So that one might have caught your eye. Anytime you're talking about dress codes or dress and grooming, folks might have some questions. Nothing new, nothing changing.
Same tuxedos
Same thing.
and everything
And this
else,
one is
right?
about the adults, however, not about the students. So that would not have the same thing. The one policy in the first reading that I would like to bring to the board's attention this evening is policy 7250. Naming of school buildings, portions of buildings, or facilities. I know all of you are aware, I hope most are aware in our community, we're embarking on the construction of a new elementary school. We're building that elementary school, but we're continuing and plan to continue the use of what is now our current central elementary school. So on or around the time that hopefully all of us will have hard hats and shovels to break ground for the new elementary school, it would be an appropriate time to have an official determination of what the name of that school may be. So in reviewing our policies, it was quite brief. Our policy was quite brief, just a few sentences. So I did do some research and came upon a school district actually in Michigan. Dexter, is that the correct name? Dexter Community Schools in Dexter, Michigan, had an outstanding policy. It was so well written that I asked Mrs. Beltran to communicate with the superintendent's office to ask if we could use their language. It was going to be so close to being the same, I didn't want to plagiarize a colleague of ours. They graciously said, yeah, just give us some credit in the bottom of your policy. So you'll see that in that policy, we did note them that we're using significant language. They did a very nice job of not just outlining a process for the naming of a school building, but portions of a school building. For example, a community room, a gymnasium, a conference room. Perhaps were conference rooms 1, 2, and 3, for example, in this room. For a myriad of reasons, boards may decide to honor people, places, based on folks' contributions to the district, etc. So, or community, for that matter. I felt they did an outstanding job of capturing those possibilities within a school district to do that. So I do bring that to your attention this evening. It is a first reading policy, which means that we can mark it up 100 different ways, if you like, before the second reading and adoption. That's what this is for. So I would encourage you to reach out to me, and at our reorganization meeting, you'll be choosing 2 new policy representatives from the board, and you can choose to go through them or my office, but you can start with me until at least that reorg meeting and ask me any questions you have, make any suggestions, find the typos, of course, in that. So this process does include a community input run for the naming of a school building, where the superintendent and a board member would in essence co-chair a group to get feedback from the community and then bring recommendations to the board. Not a single recommendation, but recommendations to consider, because ultimately that will be a board decision. So lengthy this evening. I don't usually get into policy too long with the board, but this one was kind of a biggie, and this is one that will garner some communication and some thoughts and feelings within our community, and look forward to that conversation, but just felt like we needed a little bit more robust policy than we currently had in place to do that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about policies this evening.
Well, I think it's wise to get that in writing now before it is an issue. And so there are some clear guidelines to go on, because obviously there is a school, but there will be a lot of elements
Yes.
being built in the years ahead.
Exactly.
That's going to be an issue.
Thank you.
I shouldn't say an issue. It's going to be a topic.
Topic.
to
It's a
decide.
topic.
Not an
Yeah,
issue.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
necessarily a bad thing,
Yeah,
but decisions to be made.
Exactly. Right now, it's Beanfield Elementary School, right? That's the name of the school. Mr. Dennis
The
likes
working title.
Mr. Dennis likes to refer to it as that Beanfield over there.
Beanfield.
Yes.
Sometimes those
That's
things
where-
stick,
That's
so.
where we are. Yeah. But we do hope, as you know, with our partners, to break ground in the fall of 2022, 2023 rather. And that's not that far away to put some folks together, have a good amount of time for folks to provide meaningful input through the process. The spring and summer months will slip by quickly, and so we'll want to tackle it. So
I think to
thank
be
you.
equal opportunity, you have to offer up to
Cornfield,
as well.
Beanfield. I think it was beans last time. Yeah.
Depending
Give
on
all
the
the
year.
crops
That's
their
right.
due. Okay. Anything else on those? All right, thank you. Okay, item 9, consent agenda for staff matters. Dr. Milliman.
Thank you. This evening, under the classified staff matters, we have 5 custodial positions, 1 transportation position, 4 special education IAs. Take a moment to applaud our principals on that. Those have been difficult positions to fill, so congratulations there. A homebound instructor, a sign language interpreter position this evening, and 2 substitute nurse positions for classified. Under the certified staff matters this evening, we do have 1 request for medical leave. Jessica Mulcahy, a special needs teacher at the high school, submitted her letter of resignation effective at the end of the first semester. And to fill that position, Mr. O'Rourke is recommending Mary Neal for the special needs position at LHS. Mr. O'Rourke's also recommending Jeff Smock for the Dean of Students position for the remainder of the 2022-23 school year. And Ms. Sandberg is recommending Will Robinson for the Assistant Director position at Joint Services. Will has already been a part of Joint Services. He's been a consultant here in LCSC, helping guide the decisions and case conferences of many of our special needs students in here, being recommended to be elevated to Assistant Director. And at the next meeting, we'll have a recommendation for you to fill his position as consultant. We just found out today. So we'll look forward to that. In ECA, Mr. O'Rourke is recommending several class sponsors and club sponsors that you will see listed in your background notes. And Amanda Scoble, Middle School Athletic Director, is recommending her slate, or at least a partial slate, of winter coaching positions. Again, you will see in your background notes this evening. That's all I have for staff matters.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the classified, certified, and ECA staff as presented by Dr. Milliman. Okay, second? Any questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Consent agenda for business matters. Mr. Dennis.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith. Apologize. We do not have a financial update this evening. The December board meeting being the second Tuesday was always going to be a difficult turnaround. We do appreciate the third Tuesday of the month. I will say that we were well on pace to meet it, but the bug that's going around has befallen the business office. And I have some staff that has been out for a few days now, and that certainly prevented the completion of the normal financial report. I have every intention of, when that is completed, hopefully by the end of this week, I will forward that along to Mrs. Beltran for you guys to then receive an email and get that to you, certainly before the January meeting, as soon as I have that done. So all I have for you tonight then would be the approval of claims for payment. So I bring to you the December 22nd docket, which includes EFTs and check number 56773 through 56954 in the amount of $1,773,325.26, along with the payroll from November 25th and December 9th. That totals $2,039,600. I'm going to get through a meeting at one point without stumbling over a dollar sign. The payrolls are $2,039,641.75 for a grand total of claims and payroll of $3,812,967.01. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
There's a reason why I let you say that every time. It is a mouthful. Board, I'd like a motion to approve claims for payment 56773 through 56954 and payrolls for November 25th, 2022 and December 9th, 2022 as presented by Mr. Dennis.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second? I'll second. Any questions or comments on that? Hope everyone's feeling better soon.
I do too.
I know it's been rough lately. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Comments from the public? We've already heard from them.
I see no other names on the clip.
No other names are on there. So we will move along to action items. A is recommendation of appointment of LCSC Board of Trustees member, Mr. Parks.
Yeah, as we discussed, this is Ms. Keith's last meeting, and at the last month she had notified us and turned in her letter of resignation effective the end of this year. However, nobody had filed for that seat in Worth Township. So at the November 15th meeting, we opened it up for a couple weeks to ask anybody in the public who was a Worth Township resident for any letters of interest. And we did receive a letter of interest from Jordan Clauser. And if Jordan, if you want to come up, but as part of this, thanks Kent for guiding us through this procedure of having a vacancy on the board, and so this is, I know it's not a formal interview, but what I wanted to do is offer this up for Jordan to introduce yourself to us, to the public, since it is on board, and then I'm going to open it up to anybody on the board that would like to ask any additional questions that you may have to determine whether we would like to go ahead and vote Mr. Klauser onto this board.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
I'm Jordan Klauser. I live in Worth Township in the Legacy Corps area, Whitestown. My wife and I moved to that area in 2017. We have 2 wonderful daughters. One is 3, one is 10 months now. My wife and I started laying down roots in the Legacy Corps area in Worth Township, and couldn't be happier. We love the neighborhood, we love the community, we love everything about where we've wound up. I'm from Tipton originally, which is not too far from here. I remember having Western Boone and schools like Lebanon on our schedule in sports for football, and usually it didn't go too well for Tipton. But so it's funny now to be standing up here and speaking to the board and giving you guys my letter of interest. I just and I know you guys have seen this, but I'll briefly just say I'm a staunch supporter of the public education system. It's where I came up, and I credit a lot of where I am today to a lot of my teachers, coaches, and educators, administrators. So I think this is a very important space to be in. I'm very excited about the opportunity, and hopefully, unless something goes poorly awry, I look forward to working with you guys. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions or address any concerns anybody may have.
Do you have a profession?
Yes, sorry, that's would have been great to include in my introduction. I'm an attorney here in town. I've been an attorney in town. I'm currently at the prosecutor's office and have been there for a little over a year now. My wife works at Salesforce downtown, so both very much in the Boone County community.
So what intrigued you, or what is your why to be part of the board?
Like I said, I've got a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old. A lot of what's about to happen here in this community is going to directly impact my family. I want, obviously, firstly, I want what's best for my kids. But I think there is a real opportunity to be a part of something that's very special here in Boone County and grow the education system here in this community. And I think that's just massively important, and that's the main reason why. I think it's just a very important thing to be a part of, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm going to ask a question that I'm sure several may be thinking, several in the public, is if you're interested in the position, why didn't you file for candidacy at the time it was open?
Yeah, I think that's a great question and a very fair question. I wish maybe I had a more elegant answer than I do. I think if I would have talked to my wife when she was 9 months pregnant, or while I had a newborn at home, about the idea of filing for candidacy or running any sort of campaign, she would have stared me into oblivion, and I couldn't have blamed her for that. I mean, as everybody knows who has kids, it's a crazy, transition. We already had one. Transitioning from 1 to 2 was nothing like I could have ever expected. So, we're still learning in that regard to a certain extent, but things are settling down. I do now feel like we have time to look at opportunities and do things, whereas, for the first part of 2022, really through most of the summer even, it was really just focusing on my family and my kids.
Yeah. It is tough to run a campaign and put signs up and stand out at polls, and yes. So, yeah.
Do you have membership on any other boards?
No, I'm not on it. Well, I am a member of the Boone County Bar Association. That's the local attorneys group, but outside of that, there's nothing else that I'm a part of.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question. I would just comment that I'm glad, you said it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but that your wife is supportive. But it is important that your family is on board and understand the commitment that you're making, the time and the effort and things that are involved. So kudos to her for supporting you in that. And I think that is important and good that you recognize as a family.
And again, from guidance from Kent on how this is to go, we have the authority as the remainder of the board, those that are going to be on the seat. Unfortunately, Mrs. Keith cannot vote for somebody to fill her position, and we did verify too that just the three of us, if that passes, that would be a majority of quorum and would be capable. So with that, I will open it up for a motion to nominate Jordan for the Worth Township seat on this board.
Make that motion. I'll second.
Any discussion, questions?
No, I think he will be a great addition to the board. He brings some experience and some other backgrounds that we don't have, and I think your knowledge will be well received and good for our board.
Get ready for a fun ride. Right? all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Congratulations. We look forward to it.
Congratulations.
Now we are actually going to turn it over to Mrs. Beltran to do the oath of office for the township Worth Township seat. So.
Yeah, perfect.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Indiana and the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana. I will faithfully execute the duties of my office as a member of this governing body for the 4-year term to commence on January 1st, 2023. I'll be back.
Welcome aboard. I'm going to turn it back over
Back.
to the president.
Back to me. Congratulations. All right, well, I know you have some things to do. We're going to move on, or maybe you're done. Okay. B is the approval of the LMS course description guide. Mrs. Scott.
Once again, it's that time of year for us to get ready for second semester with scheduling with middle school and high school kiddos. And so the leadership at the buildings, Mr. Dunshee and Mr. O'Rourke have worked with their staff and their department chairs to come together to figure out what adjustments they need to make in order to be prepared for the 23-24 school year. Seems crazy, but it's time to do that. So we have a whole process that we do each year, and it ends up coming to our curriculum coordination team to review, and then to our cabinet level, and then it's finalized in a course description guide. So tonight I would like to present to you the changes for the middle school course description guide. There are just a few changes. The first one is actually driven by legislation. We are now required to offer 6th graders a civics course. And we're putting it in the social studies area at the middle school level. So that is a new course. Our existing staff have figured out a way they are going to teach it. I believe, tentatively, I think Mrs. Kavanaugh and Mr. Gurka are working on the actual curriculum and what they're going to be doing for that. So that's one item. And then the rest of the items all really fall under engineering and technology. You might remember in the past we've referred to those courses as being gateway courses. Well, Mr. Dunshee and Mr. O'Rourke have been talking, and we're trying to align them more with what's offered at the middle school to line up with what pathways are available at the high school level. And so the courses that we're planning to offer, there'll be one in each grade level, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, and I think they were laid out in your packet. And again, it comes under engineering and technology. Grade 6 would be computer science for innovators and makers. Grade 7 will be app creators, and grade 8, medical detectives. and there's a description there for you to take a look at. And the only other change I would say is the list that you have of changes. There was some formatting changes in the actual guide, so the page numbers don't line up exactly as they were on your original cover sheet. The civics class is actually on page 13 instead of 14, and the engineering technology ones actually start on page 15, not page 16. I didn't catch that till today, so sorry for missing that. So those are the very basic changes, and they line up with what's approved through DOE. And if you have any questions, I'd certainly entertain those at this time.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the course changes as described by Mrs. Scott.
I'll motion.
A second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on those?
Sounds fun.
It does. It sounds
Like
interesting.
The medical detective
That
thing,
sounds
that would
really
be so fun. And the app creator, they're going to love that.
I think kids will get lit up. They really will.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's great.
Great. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mr. O'Rourke has a much more detailed layout of high school courses, so he's going to share those with you.
Okay, thank you. All right, LHS course description.
Good evening. I'd like to start with just a couple recognitions, and also on behalf of LHS, I'd like to thank Mrs. Keith for the last 8 years. It's been an honor to work with you, and I know our staff feels the same way. So thank you very much. As Diane said, there's a lot of people that help with this, so I do feel it's important to recognize our department chairs, Kristen Scott, Megan Lewis. They do a great deal of work on this with a nearly 75-page course description guide, and a lot of things that are going on at the state level with graduation pathways. It takes a lot to stay up with it, and so their help is instrumental. And then, as Diane said, also the Curriculum Coordination Committee is a huge help and with her leadership. So a lot of hands have touched this, a lot of thought and time has gone into it. So with that, I think you have a change document that's like a one-page document. There's 22 changes, 7 title changes, 6 course added, and 9 courses removed. I'm happy to discuss any of those with you if you have questions. If you want me to go through each one, I can, but if you would prefer just to ask questions, I'm happy to answer any of them.
Board, I'd like a motion to approve the changes as presented by Mr. O'Rourke.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second? Second. Any questions or comments or need for further explanation?
Again, looks like some good new courses. I know some happy students to see the dance performance course. I think that'll be in advanced jazz ensemble. Oliver will be disappointed that he won't get
He'll be out.
1 year after.
A little too late.
Too late.
Great. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. D, cancellation of stale dated checks prior to December 31st, 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith. Indiana Code 5-11-10.5 states that treasurers of a political subdivision must prepare a register of all checks that are 24 months old, and those checks then would be presented to the board for cancellation. If you've ever looked at any personal checks, as those are a dying breed, I think, but if you've ever seen that, there is a time limit you have to cash those checks. And for school corporation checks, that time limit is 24 months. The code does specifically state that we have until March 1st of actually 2023 to cancel any remaining checks from calendar year 2020. But when you look at our check register, our last check of 2020 that had not been cashed was October 14th, and so we felt prepared to bring this check register to you here in December and not necessarily wait until December 31st. So I know the code does read we are canceling checks all the way up to December 31st of 2020, and we are not yet at December 31st of 2022.
Okay.
We just don't have any outstanding checks that are that
will
old.
need to be.
Or I should say that young, I guess is the correct way to say it. So,
Okay.
So presented to you are both our accounts payable checks as well as any ECA checks that become 24 months old as of December 31st of this year. So with
Okay.
that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but would respectfully ask for a motion to cancel those stale dated checks.
Okay, and board, a listing of those checks has been provided in your background notes. So I'd like a motion to approve the cancellation of those stale dated checks, please.
I'll make the motion.
Second? Any questions or comments on that?
Mr. Dennis, what is the process for attempting to contact the recipients of these checks, or do we do that to see why they haven't been cashed?
I'm not completely aware of our process or if we have an obligation to do so. I'm happy to ask the folks in the business office and get you an answer to that question. I do not know, so I don't want to pretend like I do. But certainly I will get you an answer for that question.
Thank you. Great.
And the money's returned to the general fund? Is
Yeah,
that what I'm understanding?
it will be, so it will show up as a receipt to the original fund where it was written from, yes.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Request approval of classified staff stipend, Mr. Dennis?
So it's customary to provide a stipend in December for our classified staff. As you know, we do have the teacher appreciation grant for certified staff. Of course, we have our administrator stipend that is brought to the board every summer, and this would be our analogous stipend that we offer to our classified staff. The way that this reads is it's quite the calculation, and I want to thank Melissa very much in my office. There's no report that calculates these numbers. She, with the help of Excel, determines 3% of an employee's gross wages from January 1st of 2022 through November 30th of 2022. And that amount shall not exceed $1,000, and it shall not be less than $50. And these classified staff members must have been an active employee of the school corporation as of the first day of this school year. So we do want to honor any classified staff that are new to us as of this school year and not just back to January 1st. But certainly we have plenty of returning classified staff that have worked with us well prior to January 1st. And then, of course, that employee does need to be actively employed as of this Friday to receive the stipend and in good standing. So at this time, I would be happy to answer any questions, but would respectfully request a motion to pay these classified staff.
Okay. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the stipend for classified staff, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Any questions on that?
Just glad we're able to do this one.
Merry
Exactly.
Christmas, right?
Merry Christmas, exactly. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, approval of owner's representative contract. Mr. Dennis.
So construction has been obviously quite a hot topic around over the past 6 months here, and as we really stare down what we have in front of us and the complexity of projects, I bring to you tonight an owner's representative contract for Harry Delks to serve as a consultant, for lack of a better term, for me. And this individual, whose resume is in your board packet, has 30 plus years of facility construction. Certainly is one thing, and the utility of the owner's representative, I want to be clear, is not so much advice or consultation on how the buildings are constructed. We obviously have our professional partners in Gibraltar and Meyer Najum. The value of Harry's expertise is the fact that he has maintained buildings that he has built beyond, obviously, the relationship of the architect and the construction manager. So, in other words, as we're looking at these buildings and decisions or potential change orders, Harry's utility, of course, is going to be this is what this is going to look like 10 years from now, and this is going to be the implication and the costs of maintenance of these buildings, and these decisions that you're making right now for years down the road. Now, obviously, he does have expertise in the actual construction phase, as well as he's overseen hundreds of millions of dollars of building projects in his previous school district, as well in the private sector. I know that there were some questions about some insurance provisions, and I want to assure you that I've worked very closely with our insurance provider, and Mr. Delks has agreed to obtain the insurance as our insurance provider has requested. And then, of course, in in Exhibit A at the very end of the contract, you will see the scope of services that Mr. Delks is going to provide when asked by Lebanon Community School Corporation. So at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but would appreciate approval of Mr. Delks' contract as an owner's representative to our elementary projects.
Okay. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the contract for owner's representative. Second?
I'll second.
Questions or comments on that?
Approximately how many hours do we think a week?
In the agreement, we have listed a not to exceed of 20 hours. Where I arrived at that number is, one, Mr. Delks is retiring from a very successful career, and he doesn't desire to have another full-time job. With that being said, I'm not sure of what the OAC, the owner architect contractor meetings, may be like on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. I think 20 hours is generous. I don't know that it will ever require that amount, but as we start with 4 different construction sites, whether he's visiting those sites and attending a meeting or 2 or even 3 in any given week, we wanted to make sure that we clearly defined our expectations of where they end with Mr. Delks on any given week, and felt that 20 hours was more than sufficient to cover what his duties may be on any given week.
Any other questions? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of child nutrition consultant, Mr. Dennis.
So, Board, as you know, we have a child nutrition provider in Aramark, and Mr. Martin, due to recent legislation changes in Indiana, has had to do some coursework, go back to school, and pass the test.
All other duties is assigned by the superintendent. Just clear.
And you know, the extent to which Aramark contractually is to complete some of the requirements in a very heavily regulated area such as child nutrition is limited. That's not the scope of their responsibility. And Mr. Martin, as I just mentioned, with the construction that we have going on, we certainly desire to use Mr. Martin's time and talents in places other than just child nutrition, as we have joked around the table in cabinet that he has certainly had his working day occupied by big items over the past 2 years, whether it was COVID and then now the child nutrition situation. And so we asked some colleagues around the state and found a very reputable individual to consult with Mr. Martin on an as-needed basis for reporting any items that he should be on the lookout for, of course, regulatory items. In fact, Mrs. Gazarowski was actually the district manager for Aramark for Lebanon in the 90s before taking a position as child nutrition director at the MSD of Wayne Township, where she finished her career, and now she is, as so many retired school officials are seemingly doing nowadays, providing some consulting services in their retirement. And so her resume as well is listed with her proposal, and I'd be happy to answer any questions and would respectfully.
I would add to that as well, Sarah's expertise in the many building projects that she's been part of. As you're aware, Perry Worth Design is looking at a new kitchen. We're looking at some significant changes and upgrades potentially at Harney, and in the serving line areas as well as the kitchen areas, the new construction of the elementary school. So setting up those facilities, she'll be valuable to that conversation as well with her expertise. So wanted to also interject that would be a significant ask as well, just because we have not done that. And as Mr. Dennis has pointed out, Aramark does provide us management services for our child nutrition services. They are not employees of the district. So from my chair, I felt that it would be advantageous for us to have a consultant that has done this, that is our eyes and not the management company. They're perfectly capable. Aramark has built many buildings as well, but I always want to make sure our best interest is in mind and we have a representative at the table. So that'll be a big part of that lift as well.
Okay. All right, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the contract for a child nutrition consultant.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on that? So just to clarify, the new law says that it is a school, an LCSE employee who has to provide the data.
Yes,
Okay.
data, different certifications, almost a oversight role. That's a good way to put it, Mr. Martin. It went into effect July of 2022.
Okay.
And Mr. Martin is now Safe Serve certified for all your catering needs if you guys would like to.
Your list of qualifications grows and grows. Any other questions on that? No. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Approval of Aramark addendum, Mr. Dennis.
So we just brought up the child nutrition side of Aramark, and we're now going to switch over to the buildings and grounds. As you all know, we've had a decades-long relationship with, began as Service Master, and then they were acquired by Aramark. And that contract is set to expire on June 30th of 2024. So we still do have approximately 18 months. And as I arrived here, I really wanted to wrap my mind around our agreement with Aramark. And in discussions with Aramark leadership, I asked them to think creatively about our relationship and how they provide service to other customers. What do we not currently receive that other customers do? What have you done elsewhere? And we received a proposal in return that I feel very strongly is a money saver for the district. And I want to preface that because I am about to ask you to increase our annual fee to Aramark. And I want to explain how this agreement works and how it will save the district money. So what I provided Aramark was fiscal year 22, so July 1st of 21 through June 30th of 22, I provided our entire general ledger of expenditures in the operations fund. And from that, Aramark picked out what they call NCOE, non-capital operating expenditures. We call out repair companies daily to our buildings, and we have items that are in need of repair, or we have parts that our own staff need to purchase so that they can complete repairs. And any of those items that are less than $2,500, Aramark considers one of these NCOE items, non-capital operating expenditure. And for fiscal year 22, we spent $406,684.07. What Aramark is agreeing to do is, starting on January 1st, purchase all of these items. So they will not be expenditures of Lebanon Community School Corporation. They become expenditures of Aramark. And what they are proposing to purchase these for $344,644. And so, thinking creatively about this, we know that we are in an inflationary environment. And we know that that $406,000 were purchases made all the way back to July 1st of 2021. And we know what inflation has done since then. In fact, Aramark estimates that those expenditures are likely worth $440,439 in fiscal year 23. And so what Aramark has agreed to do is to purchase what the district could incur, $440,000, for $344,000. My concern was that fiscal year 22 was not a representative year for these expenditures. I was very concerned that, you know, perhaps that was an expensive year for us, and we don't normally spend that much. Again, Aramark, very creative in their response to that question. So even though we spent $406,000 and they're agreeing to purchase it for $344,000, should we not incur $344,000 of those expenditures? This agreement says Aramark will spend the difference to beautify our district. So in other words, if we only spend $324,000 on these types of expenditures, Aramark will spend $20,000 of their own money for landscaping, exterior painting, items such as that. In fact, we will only have to expend more of our money should these types of expenditures exceed the $440,000. So what Aramark has done then is agreed to honor their contract price for this year. They are not taking a CPI increase. That was 9% this year. So our contract last year was for $755,601.86. CPI increase nationwide was 9%. Originally they had talked that they would propose 4%. They're now proposing 0%. Additionally, they're proposing to buy what cost us $406,000 for $344,000. And they believe that $406,000 will actually be worth $450,000 in today's inflationary market. So what I'm asking for this evening then would be to increase Aramark's annual contract to the $1,100,265.49, which represents their contract amount from last year plus, with no increase, yes, plus the $344,664. Please.
So, you came to them and asked them to, you know, help us come up with something better or to help save some expenses. For this particular offering that they're offering, what other school districts or how many other school districts do they do this for, and what has been their outcome in regards to underspending, overspending, whatever that may be?
Sure. So with their agreement, they manage Purdue as well. And then Purdue actually, I think, includes employees, whereas it's just management for us. The way that they arrived at these numbers is they actually have a range of what our NCOE costs should be on any given year. And actually, I will give Aramark credit, they admitted that they were surprised at how low our NCOEs already were. They were expecting our NCOEs to be more in the high $400,000 range. So with that being said, I was confident then that for an organization of our size and our budget, we already had a fairly frugal NCOE expenditure. And so that was my concern with, okay, well, what if we don't spend that much? And that's then where they proposed. I'm not aware that they have that agreement where they'll beautify the grounds with any other client. I thought that was a more than fair concession on their part to address my concerns of what if I gave you a year's worth of expenditures that were lower than normal or higher than normal. And it was a very fine compromise. Quite honestly, you always want to be fair negotiating partners. feel like the school corporation kind of did a little better on this agreement, quite honestly.
NCOE,
Non-capital operating expenditures. Parts,
Such as-
widgets, repairs to, so should our staff not be able to complete a repair and we have to call in a plumber, as long as that bill is less than $2,500, Aramark pays it. If it's $2,501, that's when we take over. So again, my concern is, all right, what if we have a particularly bad year of $2,501 invoices? That's where the GO bond strategy comes in to mitigate those operations fund expenditures. We have those GO bonds in place that can take care of those large operational type expenditures to relieve the pressure on the operations fund. So even though we will be spending more out of the operations fund to Aramark, I believe they will save us, let's say, $100,000 of deferred expenses because they're paying for them at an inflationary level. But should we have a bad year of $2,501 expenditures, we do have the GO bonds 2021 and 2022 available to support those expenses.
So they provide a monthly list of all that.
Correct. I've asked them that we will have a monthly report of what our running tally is, I guess, informally, to say it one way.
just to simplify and clarify for myself. So
Mhm.
we have the contract.
Yep.
And then the difference. And the difference is what the NCOE is. And that's anything that can be applied to that would go to the difference, the $350,000.
I think a way to think of it is we're prepaying these expenditures to Aramark for the $344,000. And for that $344,000, they're letting us run a tally up to $440,439. So we have, I guess, $100,000 in free parts and labor costs.
And that is anything that we may need repair-wise.
Repair-wise, parts.
That exceeds the 2,500.
They're taking care of 0 to 2,500.
Okay.
We take care of
Anything else?
above 2,500, yes.
In the main contract, the management fee, the actual soft costs.
The
These
director,
others are, yeah.
HVAC, maintenance,
Yeah.
and custodial.
And to answer your question another way, I believe in my experience, our arrangement is a bit unique, so it might be difficult to find too many comps of folks in districts. Oftentimes when you're outsourcing to companies such as Aramark, the custodial staff, the food service staff are Aramark employees. It's a full outsource type of situation. So ours, again, in my experience, is a bit unique in that what we have outsourced is administration and management of Aramark. And I think it goes back to the Service Master Agreement when Aramark bought that company, and we've had this arrangement for decades within the district. So I do think that while I may not be aware of too many myself, there would be these. It's a national company, as Service Master was. So I'm sure it's not as unique as my experience would show. But I do think also there were unique contracts with districts under Service Master that the larger company bought out, and you maintain some of those relationships and some of those processes over time. And so this is an opportunity to refine that relationship a bit, and to take a little, I guess, a little deeper look at how we can maximize that relationship. And the length of the original contract does not change with this addendum. So that I point out to the board as well. So this does not eliminate the board's opportunity in 2024 to look at RFP for services with multiple companies if we would like, or continue and renegotiate with the current provider. All those are on the table. So this is an addendum for the remainder of the contract, it doesn't extend the current arrangement, if I'm correct.
That's the value I have in bringing it to you this evening. If we don't like this, again, I don't believe that financially this can go wrong, but if we don't like the way that it's working, June 30th of 2024 is a brand new contract moving forward.
Thank you. Great explanation. Good questions. All right, I'd like a motion to approve the Aramark contract addendum, please. Second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Dennis, oh, no, this is the one we are skipping over because we did not do that
You are,
hearing,
yep.
so we're not doing I this evening. Sorry. J is back to you, Mr. Dennis, for the architectural contract for elementary school renovations and construction.
Very pleased to bring to you tonight the culmination, well, perhaps I shouldn't say culmination, but the official kickoff of our engagement with Gibraltar for elementary architectural work. I know that they were partners long before my arrival here, and it's odd that you can be working with someone for as long as we have and not have a contract in place, but that's kind of how these arrangements work. I do want to thank Gibraltar, Mr. Thompson specifically, for the negotiation in good faith and banter back and forth as we came to terms on what is an incredibly fair fee for the estimated hard costs of construction that these 4 elementary schools will cost us. The process through approving contract language to make sure that we were both comfortable was incredibly amicable and fair, and I know that he will be very excited to get this contract officially in place should the board choose to approve it. I would be certainly happy to answer any questions that the board does have on the contract, but would respectfully request your approval of Gibraltar's elementary school project contract.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the contract with Gibraltar Design for architectural contract for elementary school renovation and construction.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
This will be a monthly, it's a lump sum, I see, monthly fee,
So,
or monthly based on percent complete.
yes, based on the various schematic design, design development, construction administration. Yep.
Any other questions or comments on that? No, just thank you all for your work in coming to an agreement. I know they're complicated contracts and a lot of moving parts, so thank you very much. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, approval of special education consultant agreement. Dr. Milliman.
That one's mine. It's
That is
the
you.
evening of consultants
It is.
for the board this evening. Bring before the board this evening for your consideration contract for consulting with Churchill and Antrim, a law firm that assists joint services and our district from time to time with special education needs. The board's aware that several years ago, Frankfort Community Schools withdrew from joint services, cooperative special education services. Most recently, Northwest Hendricks has decided to also withdraw from joint services from the Boone Clinton Northwest Hendricks. We will be officially renaming to Boone Clinton Joint Services in January, and I'll be bringing that before the board to continue our relationship with them. However, as more and more districts withdraw from the joint services, the percentage of expenses or percentage of membership is proportionately shifted to the remaining members. Lebanon Schools is projected next year to be between 40 and approximately 40% of joint services. Our friends to the west, Western Boone, would make up 20% of joint services. So the two Boone County school districts would be contributing 60% of the funding to maintain joint services. The nature of a cooperative is just what it sounds like, to enjoin services. You cooperatively purchase services. What that means from joint services membership is the director, assistant director, so administration, clerical, lease on the facilities, some equipment that would be involved with screening, perhaps testing, some ed psych services, consultant services. Deaf and hard of hearing and blind and low vision teachers are the most difficult to find in special education, and we do share those teachers among the 5 districts. What we've asked CCHA, and their representative is Mr. Tom Bell, who, much like the consultants that have been presented this evening, has extensive background in special education administration, has been a special education administrator while joining a cooperative services and also withdrawing from a cooperative services. So he has a great deal of expertise, and what we met with Mr. Bell along with Western Boone to ask him to do a review of that membership based on what our proportion of membership would be to remain in joint services. So he will be giving us some advice, if you will, or a look at what it would mean if Lebanon Community Schools maintain special education services independently, and then also if we were to perhaps join with Western Boone, because again we were 60% moving forward as the cooperative, or remain in joint services. All 3 of those options are equal scenarios which could take place. I felt, as your superintendent, when we began to see that proportion of our membership increase to this level, that it would be responsible for me to provide the board feedback on that, to make sure that we were maximizing our taxpayers' dollars and support for our special education services in our classrooms and to our administrators. So that's simply what, it's a long explanation, but that's simply what Mr. Bell's role will be. I know conversations like this make people uncomfortable, uneasy, etc. Special education services are required, they are necessary, and all of those things are in place for the right reasons. And so that is not something that we would ever compromise, is the support of our students and families in the special education arena. I mentioned Western Boone a couple times in this conversation. We are requesting the board, it does say the full amount in your background notes. We would be sharing the cost 50%, 50% with Western Boone on this agreement. We would just ask them to invoice us separately, or we'll pay and we'll invoice Western Boone one way or the other. But it is Mr. Ramey, the superintendent of Western Boone, has agreed to split this cost 50-50 with us, and you can see it's a very modest amount. We expect to have some results back within, I'd say, 6 to 8 weeks of Mr. Bell reviewing expenditures and projected revenue and expenditures and our needs. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but would ask for your approval of the services from CCHA for this consulting service.
Okay. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the special education consultant agreement, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Questions or comments on that? I'll just say I think it's a good idea to look at it, you know, as districts continue to leave. Maybe it is stay with joint services, but I think it's good to go through this process and know for sure what the responsible way to go
I think
is.
when Northwest Hendricks made that move, it became pretty apparent that this was something we need to at least bring to the board. Yeah. It's a year-to-year. It's a year-to-year agreement that we bring to the board. However, it's a great question. Within the joint services agreement, there is a minimum number of months. If a district was to withdraw, there's a minimum number of months that you must remain in joint services until you exit. for all the right reasons. You leave a lot of students potentially without service if all of a sudden you, for lack of a better term, take your marbles and go home. Because there are students that rely on those services. So there has to be a glide path to keep those students serviced. So it's a 15-month clock that starts from it can shift a little bit from 15 months based on where the school year lands, and with the approval of the other governing board member superintendents. If Northwest Hendricks is an example, they were a little shy of 15 months, but the timing was not going to cause strife among us, and so we did shift that a little with a vote of the board. That's an excellent question. So it is a year-to-year approval from the board to maintain our relationship, but there's a 15-month exit that's part of the agreement.
Anything further on that? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Request approval of supplemental pay. Dr. Milliman?
Thank you. Requesting this evening approval of supplemental pay for Ms. Kathy McGee. Just mentioned deaf and hard of hearing and blind low vision, very difficult positions to fill at this time. You recently approved the retirement of Melanie Warnock, who is our deaf hard of hearing teacher for all 5 joint services school districts. She's retiring. There's no applicants for the position. Ms. McGee holds the licensure for deaf hard of hearing and is willing to take on the caseload for the remainder of this school year. With that licensure, we do have instructional assistants that are also on the payroll, if you will, from joint services, and we can shift that just like we do in our district. If perhaps we'll need an additional IA, and that might come to you at a later meeting, depending on that. But we, under the supplemental pay law, you may remember our last meeting, is why we were able to provide it for our certified staff with discussion with the exclusive representative, which for us is LCTA. So we did discuss that with them, and we wanted to make sure that we gave Ms. McGee some compensation for the fact that she is now inheriting the caseload of deaf and hard of hearing. So this supplemental pay has been discussed. It's gone through all of the requirements within the statute, and we're able to do that under the statute to provide her for the remainder of the school year the amount that you see there in your background notes. And she's very pleased with that amount, and so I would submit it for your approval this evening.
All right. Board, I'd like a motion to approve supplemental pay as outlined by Dr. Milliman. Second?
I'll second.
Questions or comments on that? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. M, request approval of FFA grant from Community Foundation of Boone County.
Yes, our fine agriculture teachers at LHS are continuing to bring funds through the grant process. Happy to bring you another one this evening in the amount of $1,000 from Community Foundation of Boone County.
That's excellent. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the FFA grant from the Community Foundation of Boone County. Second? Questions or comments on that?
Can I see that they proposed already how they're going to spend it?
They've already got it spent. And they need to send pictures. I like that too.
Yes, yeah.
So that's a good relationship. So anything further on that? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And second reading of policy updates.
Yes, you've had an opportunity to review the second reading policies I bring for your consideration this evening. You can see there's a few from the financial side as well as technology. I'd like to thank Mr. Martin, Mr. Dennis for reviewing those, bringing those into compliance with either our current practice, Indiana code, or both.
All right. And And just a reminder, these policies were reviewed at the last meeting, so now we've had a month to look at them, and they're up for approval this month. So, Board, I'd like a motion to approve those policies as submitted. Second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on those? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, Mr. Martin, field trip to Chicago.
Good evening. The Perry Worth fifth grade team would like your approval on a trip as described in the background documents. A one-day trip, up and back. It is in 2023 in May, and I'm not sure what else I could tell you without too much overload.
No, I think that's great. The background notes are very thorough, so.
A whirlwind of a day, I've done it.
It is. It's tiring, but fun. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the Perry Worth fifth grade trip to Chicago, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And one more trip, Mr. Martin?
High school girls wrestling, I have one come up pretty quick here. Mr. Goodlett and Mr. Levine have asked for approval of the 21st and 22nd for the girls wrestling to participate in a invitational.
Okay. And again, I would say all the details are provided for the board in your background notes. December 21st through the 22nd. So yes, coming up very quickly. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the girls wrestling overnight trip, please.
Go ahead. I'll second.
Questions or comments on that?
Nope, I think it's great. I don't recall, did they get sanctioned? Is girls wrestling not, so they're still fighting for it? And I think this past Saturday, the girls wrestling program hosted a tournament here with over 300 wrestlers. It's fantastic just to see the growth of that sport. So I really hope that the IHSAA can really come forward and be able to acknowledge that.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. I heard it was quite a day.
Yeah, it was a day.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Whew. Upcoming meetings for all of you. But I'll tell you what you're doing. We're all going to have a winter break. Then January 2nd, professional development, no students. January 3rd, first day of second semester for students. Also January 3rd, reorganization meeting at 7:30 a.m. And the next
reminder, that meeting is at the Administration Center, your reorganization meeting. So
there we go. And the next regular meeting is here on January 17th at 7 p.m. Anything else?
Well, that is a good question. Dr. Milliman, did you mention at the beginning that there was a donation from the PTO or?
should be coming to you forthwith. I think we didn't make it on this board meeting. Maybe it'll make it
Okay,
on the next.
we just wanted to make sure we didn't miss it.
Or did we already approve it, Dr. Dye? It's probably on the next.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we didn't
No, I'm glad you
forget
caught
anything.
that. Yes, they bought a new piece of equipment for Herney Elementary, and it's definitely above the threshold for its significance, so very pleased.
Great.
That's all right. That's all right.
That's okay.
Gotcha. Well, I will just say before we adjourn, I've caught my breath a little now. Thank you for the recognition. I'm flattered and touched, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So it has been my privilege, and I wish you all the
miss you.
best. I'll
We'll
still
miss
be
you.
around. You won't be able to miss me.
We'll give you your 3 minutes.
We need some people on the naming committee.
Oh, gosh. You do- All right. Okay. All that?
One last time.
We're adjourned.